Hi, so I'm Charles Lane. I work for Fera Science Ltd, which is based in York, and I'm a plant health and biosecurity consultant. So I started working 30 years ago after finishing my PhD, and I started off in the laboratory. So I spent 20 happy years in the laboratory identifying different sort of fungal diseases. So we're mainly looking at non-indigenous and quarantine diseases. So I've worked on things like strawberry black spot disease caused by Colotoxin maculatum, which took up about 5 years of my life, and that normally is based on the morphology, what the fungus looks like. And at that time, 25 years ago, we were looking at ELISA and serological techniques for identification. So that was really good fun. And then life moved on and we went on to molecular techniques. So we started using molecular techniques. But I pride myself on being a traditional plant pathologist. So my skills are recognizing symptoms of disease, what might be the causes, and then taking that material into the laboratory, examining under microscopes, making preparations. So really hands-on, so quite old-fashioned mycology, but I really enjoy it. But after 20 years of doing that, it was just at the time that Dieback was found. And at that time, DEFRA wanted to engage with more stakeholders, with the general public because of the public outcry. So because I had 20 years experience of working in plant health and biosecurity, they wanted me to go out and talk to people and do a lot of outreach work. So I work with members of the public and do a lot of citizen science, particularly in tree health, which is great fun. I work with a lot of stakeholders, building capability and capacity in biosecurity. So if you're running a nursery and you're importing and exporting plants, do you understand how these different pests and pathogens might come into your nursery? It may not just be plant material, it could be wood packaging material, it could be the vehicles and the machinery that you use, it could be members of the public or trade visiting. So it's really about raising awareness about the different pathways of introduction and spread of pests and diseases. And that's on a national basis, but I also do some international work, which is great fun. So I work with botanic gardens and arboreta around the world, and we established the International Plant Sentinel Network with Botanic Gardens Conservation International. And they have this amazing networks of botanic gardens all around the world. They're interested obviously in plant health because it affects their collections. And again, we're building capability and capacity in plant health and biosecurity. So we run training courses overseas, and we advise and help botanic garden staff and their volunteers to recognise symptoms of pests and diseases. So we build the capability, we build that capacity, and then what we do slightly cheekily, we then go and ask them to go and look at European and British native species in their collection, because obviously if you've got a European tree, say, growing in Asia, it'd be interesting to find out what Asian species of pests and pathogens might colonise European species. But being cheeky, there is a certain reciprocation that the botanic gardens in those countries ask our botanic gardens to look at Asian species in our botanic. So there's a really nice reciprocation. It's building capability and capacity, and it's raising awareness about plant health and biosecurity. I did biology at A-level because it was the one thing I was good at. So I thought, well, I might as well do that at university. So I did a biology degree at UEA, and my tutor was a plant pathologist. And as part of that course, we did a 1-week field trip around Thetford and the Norfolk Broads and the forest. And I just had a whale of a time. I thought, I want to do practical science. I was too frightened to get a job. So I thought, let's do a PhD. And 30 years ago, it was very easy to get a PhD. So I actually did a PhD at Sheffield University on mushrooms. So I spent 3 years working in the cultivated mushroom industry in Selby. My claim to fame is I'm the Young Mushroom Scientist of the Year 1993. And I still hold that title 29 years on. Now, I would say that's the quality of my science, not the fact that the organisation I work for then shortly closed. But I worked on a fungal disease, a mycoparasite, so a fungus which is a pathogen of the cultivated mushroom, and that was called cobweb mould. So therefore my Twitter handle is Cobweb Doctor. So I am very passionate about mushroom production and growing, but actually there was very few jobs in that. But in 1993, when I qualified my PhD, it was the start of the EC single market. So there was a huge increase in plant health and biosecurity. So I applied for a job to work for the Ministry of Agriculture down in Harpenden, next door to Rothamsted, and I took on the role of being a mycologist. And I remember my boss saying to me, he said, oh, it would take you sort of 3 to 5 years before you're confident. And I thought, oh, I'm fresh out of college, I have a PhD, I'm full of ideas. 5 years later, I was still trying to get my head around the job, and it does. It's a long training program. It's not just about your academic ability, it's about your experience and the knowledge and just being exposed to so many different crops from around the world. And I think it took me 10 years before I felt I was confident to actually be a consultant, and then probably 20 years before I actually could go out and do real consultancy advice directly on behalf of UK government. What I find interesting about my job, if you'd asked me 20 years ago, it would have been about the science, I think. And it was quite funny, my dad was a vet, and when he retired after 50 years of service, I said to my dad, "What do you like most? Was it the surgery?" And he said, "No, actually it was the people." And that made me think, yeah, it is actually the people. And what I'm doing at the moment is all outreach. And I think I've always wanted to do outreach work. I love science, I like the complexity of it, but the thing I enjoy most is taking a really difficult situation and explaining it in a really simple way. So I love working in primary schools, I love working in secondary schools, I like working with the general public. But what I find amazing is you'll go and talk to a general the public and tell them about it, but then actually they tell you something back because they've read something, they've seen something. I learn so much from working with other people, and that's the joy I get out of my job.